To the Mail.
Yeah, so it's a slightly misleading headline, I think, about migrants landing in Britain with guns. The actual story is about the Home Office is really bad at doing its job. This is a report written by David Neal, who is the Chief Borders Inspector. So that's an independent watchdog that's brought in by government to basically determine whether the Home Office, headed up by Priti Patel, is doing its job. And it's a damning report. He actually submitted his report back in February.
5 months ago, yeah.
And
it's been
the Home Office, they sat on it and published it the day that Parliament went on their summer holiday, basically. He's been in role for a year and Priti Patel has not yet made an appointment to meet him. He is the inspector for her department. So this sort of demonstrates actually what's possibly happening behind those kind of tough-talking words that she comes out with about dealing with immigration, being, she's kind of got all that fire around the Rwanda.
By all accounts, she's had a terrible time with the border force as well, though. People won't see her point of view or won't get on with what she tells them to do, which is why she's then accused of bullying. It's maybe not as black and white as all that.
Well, I don't think bullying is ever an excuse for not getting your team on side.
No, but it appears there's been a bit of a war of words.
But when she's been in role for this long, and this is her department, if there were other cabinet ministers who kind of headed up this kind of disastrous delivery and performance, it's branded as poor. I mean, normally these reports are kind of choose their words quite carefully. They don't really go in for the kill, but this is terrible. And it's things like, for example, like the headline says, that detainees who came in, they're kind of logged and processed, and they're supposed to have their fingerprints taken.
Well, exactly.
They're supposed to have their faces taken. They're supposed to have hand over their documents so that they can be determined who they are. And then that process of working out whether they have a refugee asylum claim that needs to be processed in one particular way, whether there are other police forces perhaps elsewhere in Europe who need to know about these people, whether they are named on the list.
Officials and deputies and ministers have been meeting with the head of Border Force and not her. I mean, she shouldn't have to meet everybody personally, does she?
This is the chief inspector of the whole department. This is the most senior person who assesses the integrity of your work. It would be absolutely normal and correct for the head of the department to meet that chief inspector.
It is odd, isn't it?
It's very odd. And I think it has to raise questions. Priti Patel seems to have this kind of Teflon coating that criticism like this, like evidence-based criticism, not just we don't like her, but genuinely based on the performance of the department. Lots of people, particularly GBNews viewers, I find, care a lot about immigration, care a lot about the protection and the defence.
And there's no
of our
doubt that,
borders.
You say the Daily Mail...
this is terrible.
The story
it's
is
failure.
misleading, but the fact is that there have been boats that have arrived with migrants with guns.
And Priti Patel...
And several of them have later turned up on the police database as very suspicious characters and should have been known about and yet have disappeared.
Well, and that Priti Patel's department has not done anything about it. Now, there is a final bit. The spokesperson says, briefly...
Just briefly.
The spokesperson says, we're dealing with all this. But I think we need to really see the evidence and we need a proper response because, we need those answers.